Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to an unboxing style video on the hottest new Seiko of 2024. But there's a catch. Actually, there are several catches. As I'm sure you already saw from the thumbnail, Seiko have just released a red Alpinist, like a properly red Alpinist and not just one with one line of red text on the dial. Now the Alpinist already has a cult following even within the vast group that is the Seiko files of the world. So when something like this comes along, people go a bit mad over them and they get snapped up pretty quickly. Stephen and I were at Watchfest in Sydney at the weekend and several people already had these on their wrist. I was chatting to Australia's biggest online watch retailer. He had already sold out his allocation and was haggling with Seiko for more. Now, I didn't just buy one of these, but I know a man who did. The lovely REUVEN, aka Beard and Bezel on Instagram. Please do me a favour, I'll leave a link to his Insta in the description of the video. Give him a follow and tell him I sent you. So, does that dial colour justify the hype on this one? And what are those catches? Let's flip the camera and find out. Alright, let's crack on and let's keep it fairly brief today. I had some dental work yesterday and I can barely speak today, so brevity will do us both a favour. Let's do the basics, followed by the good and then the not so good. Starting with the basics, starting with the packaging. Now, a little bit different. The watch inside is a little bit different, so perhaps you'd expect something slightly unusual from the box, and you get it. Rather than the standard white cube, this is a real lift. Red dial watch deserves a red box. Now, in terms of the model reference, this one, Prospex range SPB489J1, and like all of the other Alpinists, it features the 6R35 caliber. And there it is, my friends, the hottest new Seiko of 2024, the red dialed Alpinist. So the dial may be new, but the dimensions are not. They are shared with the rest of the current Alpinist range. Those being 39.5mm in diameter, bang on 13mm thick, with a 45.5mm lug to lug. Check that side profile though, that is gorgeous. 20mm between the lugs, as supplied on the standard Seiko leather band. It weighs in at 88 grams. Now, auspicious red dial, lucky 88 grams. If I was a more cynical man, I would suggest this one was pitched at the Asian market. Just as well, I'm not so cynical then, isn't it? Water resistance, slightly overkill for a mountaineer's watch, 200 meters, and as discussed, the movement in the back is a 6R35 caliber. And there it is, 6R35, we've seen these before. They're pretty plain looking, apart from that rotor, which does have a nice little bit of Tokyo striping. 24 dual hacking and hand winding, bi-directional winding. Really, the big plus of this one is a 70-hour power reserve. The 6R35 has a date complication, they do various other versions, but this is the common or garden 6R that's found in the majority of Seiko's mid-range watches. Now, REUVEN has left a couple of stickers on here. I'm not going to peel those stickers. You don't peel off a man's stickers without permission. You can see here, though, he got number 400 out of 1,000, so a round number. He went into the Seiko boutique for his. That kind of ties into the price. I will obviously circle back to all of that a little later on in the video. Lovely, lovely case profile though, absolutely gorgeous. Let's have another look at it slightly closer up. Mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. The fixed bezel is high polished, the upper lug surfaces have a fine brush, and then that mid case, beautiful Zaratsu style polishing, very, very comfortable on wrist this one. Case back you noticed as well, also high polish. As is the way of standard Seikos though, unsigned crown, unsigned second crown. Now, the Alpinist range, if you haven't come across one before, has this second crown which does not screw down, the main 3 o'clock crown does. The second crown operates an inner rotating compass bezel. Like I said, the name suggests this one is a mountaineering watch, although how many people will actually ever use that bezel remains very much in doubt. 200 meters of water resistance, first pop of the crown, roll it forward to wind the movement, second pop of the crown, adjusts the date complication by rolling it backwards, third pull of the crown, hacks the movement to set the time. Alright, the strap. Seiko standard straps often a little bit stiff. Now this goes right back to the OG cocktail times, and this one is no different. It says calf here, but my goodness, this calf must have had a pretty rough upbringing, because that is one tough and unforgiving strap. It is embossed. It's kind of designed to look like crocodile, even though it is definitely from a cow and not a crocodile. And it has Seiko's back to front deployment system. Now, I already switched this one around because I can't handle the back to front deployment system. REUVEN went one step further. He couldn't handle the original strap. I'll show you it on a nice Sydney-based artisan straps that he purchased for it at Watchfest on the weekend. Alright then, so that's the basics, the basic dimensions and specifications out the way. What are this watch's strong points then? Well, I think the lovely case finish, lovely case shape is a definite plus. The other big factor is, of course, the dial. Red dial watches, not all that common at the moment, but they do seem to be gaining just a little bit of traction, and this is a rather nice one, if I'm being honest. There's a kind of vertical wave to it, as I'm sure you can see here, and I think the red actually goes very well with those applied gold numerals and the applied gold Seiko logo and the signature Alpinist gold cathedral hands. It's not a super vibrant red, it's more like a kind of russet deep blood red. But that's not a bad thing. It's probably going to be an easier watch to match with outfits because it's a little bit more muted than, say, a fire engine red or something like that would be. The logos applied, the Prospex X automatic and 200 meters are all just printed on beneath the pinion. And there's a printed minute track around the outer edges of the dial before you get to that internally adjustable angled compass bezel. Now, I'm sure you've noticed, how can you not have noticed the date complication? Cyclopses, always a little bit controversial, always a little bit 50-50. I guess it depends on how much you prioritize a date and how much help your eyes need to see the date. Hey, this one, definitely one of the most legible date complications that I've seen because they didn't even bother color matching it. It's bright white and it's magnified. This is definitely a bit more muted than, for example, the Negroni Cocktail Time red dial. But when you catch the light just right, when you get all of those gold markers and the gold hands popping, it looks understated yet classy. Alright, on to the not so good then, including those aforementioned catches, and I'll start with the strap. I hinted at it earlier on, the calf that had a rough childhood. It's so stiff, it really isn't all that pleasant. Now, I know these will stretch and will conform to the wrist over time, but there's always that great debate with Seikos. How many people can actually be bothered to go through that process? How many people don't just dump this and replace it with something more compliant in the very earliest stages of ownership? Which is exactly what REUVEN did. He picked up this really rather nice, again, kind of deep red russet blood suede strap, picking out the dial colours much nicer than the original did. It's so much more comfortable. Why don't Seiko just ship their watches with straps like this in the first place? Now the lume, Seiko's Lumi Bright is usually pretty consistent. I always say it's kind of like 7 out of 10. It's never a 3, it's never a 10, it's usually somewhere in the middle. When I turn the speed up on this one, I wouldn't necessarily even give this one a 7. It's mostly gone by the end of the test. I rate it as 6. And then I guess there are the biggest catches, those being, this is an Australia-only limited edition piece. So if you want one, you're going to have to either live here or make friends with someone who does live here. And they're only making 1,000 of them. Now, the RRP on these is 1,250 Australian dollars. And as you can see, all of the Seiko ADs in Australia are still selling them for that price, full price, 1,250. If you want one, therefore, you are paying full retail. That assumes you're in Australia, of course. If you want one from overseas, you're on eBay. Some cheeky chappy here is trying to shift his for 2,200 Aussie, snagging himself nearly $1,000 in profit. Naughty flipper. But is it even worth 1,250 in the first place, let alone 2,2? This is what the going rate of an SPB 121 is, the green dial Alpinist here in Australia at the moment, i.e. $500 less than the red dial. So you're really gonna have to want that red dial, because you're gonna have to pony up the full whack if you want it. Or at least that's the situation as it stands now in early November 2024, when this red Alpinist has only just been on release for a week or two. I guess there's a chance they won't sell all 1,000 of these. I know they struggled to move last year's Lark Presage Cocktail Time Special Edition again of 1,000 pieces, and I'm sure a few of them will filter back onto the second-hand market at slightly more realistic prices than Old Mate's $2,200. But it all goes to show once again just how important colour is these days in today's watch market. Any brand, even a big brand like Seiko, can come out with something that people don't have in their collections, and they will all be clamouring to have it in their collections. So there you have it. Thanks again to Reuven for the loan of his Alpinist. Don't forget to give him a follow on Insta, and if you fancy some more Alpinist content, click here or click here. I'll see you again in the next one.